Good evening, Final Fantasy Randomizer fans. Welcome to week 2 of the Duckling Bootcamp. My name is Jat. I'm going to be joined in the booth by Greggly Puff, and for now, I am joined in the booth by Darkmoon EX, who is also doing our restream tonight. How you doing, Darkmoon?
Hello, now that everyone can actually hear us. Hello, everyone out there in TV land.
So, as mentioned, this is the Duckling Bootcamp. If you're just tuning in for Final Fantasy Randomizer, if you're just tuning in here on RPG Limit Break, the Duckling Bootcamp is a program designed specifically to get new players into the game. As mentioned, this is week 2, so if you missed week 1, we're going to be building on some of those concepts, so please make sure you check that out on our YouTube or here on RPG Limit Break's VODs. Yeah, so that's that. Week 2, though, so the Duckling Bootcamp's kind of broken down into a couple different parts. So first is an 8-week bootcamp where we go over everything you need to know in order to run your first seed and kind of get ready for something that's kind of like the spring tournament. We have extra credit flags, which are run every week, which are kind of a step up, a little bit more difficult, and go and explore a few of the different aspects of the game. And finally, after that 8-week bootcamp, we have the Duck Derby itself, 4 races with Mario Kart style scoring, where you get to compete against other new players for the title of Duckling Supreme. Speaking of Duckling Supreme, we're going to have Deadpulse, the one and only Duckling Supreme, running a seed for you tonight. The way the show is going to work out, we are going to start off with a quick overview of the flags that have changed. Then we're going to go into the seed, which Deadpulse is going to run with Greggly and I commentating, and then finally we're going to do a little post-game wrap-up. If you're interested in this at all, join our Discord where we will post seed of this flags for you to compete against your other ducks and vets actually in the Duckling Weekly on Tuesday morning. And then from there, we do recommend that you run at least one practice before you start that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Darkmoon, do you have anything that you want to add before we get into this flag overview?
I think you covered all of it.
Awesome. So, without further ado, let's hit it. So, as mentioned, there's a lot of flags here, but we covered the ones that are checked off here in our last bootcamp video. So, if you want to get a little bit more of a slower walkthrough of this, make sure you check that out. So, with that, we're going to go straight into... I think there's nothing changed on enemies, either.
We'll check.
I think it's just straight to treasures.
Did we shuffle? Did we shuffle the trap tiles last week?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I think it just starts with the treasures.
Okay, treasures it is. There we go.
So moving on to treasures... Oh, actually, no, nothing here. Incentives, the first one that has changed.
Power on through.
There we go. So, incentives. So we talked last week about the difference between vanilla locations, incentive items, and random locations. And in this case, we still are not dealing with any loose stud, anything like that. In this scenario, we have 21 items and 21 locations, which means each of the items on the right will be in one of the locations on the left. Okay, and those locations include the key NPCs and the fetch quests, so don't forget those, as well as these incentive locations, which we have checked off. So if you take a look, key things here for this week are going to be random Ice Cave, which means it could be in any chest, not necessarily the one that you have to go all the way through Ice Cave for. Vanilla Ordeals. Vanilla Marsh Cave. So the Vanilla Marsh Cave check is the check behind the wizard. We have Earth Cave before gating, and what that means is that it will be before the rod, which means you are able to access it as soon as you have access to the Melman continent. You do not need the rod, and there may be the rod itself in the Earth dungeon. We have random chest in Volcano and random chest in Sea Shrine. So the goal for this week is to have everyone make sure they brush up on their Volcano routing, which they should have done last week, as well as take a look at Earth Cave and Sea Shrine to make sure you get those maps memorized. Sea Shrine, make sure you learn both the lower and upper floors of Mermaids and Kraken side. And then finally, we have Canaria locked. So, not too much going on here. Once again, if this is your first time for the bootcamp, don't worry. Go check out that video, and you can even run the Duckling Weekly from last one. But if not, ask some questions in chat, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with that. On to the right side, Incentive Masamune, Incentive Power Gauntlet. So the Power Gauntlet, of course, casts Saber, which is going to really help a melee class do some extra damage if you don't have enough mages to buff it up. Masa, of course, is going to be your endgame weapon here, and kind of as hinted, we definitely have some endgame weapons, and we'll be getting to that later. So, before we get into the next screen, I did want to say the theme for this week is Blessed and Cursed Weapons and Armor, or what is often known as Blurst Gear in the community. So, we have this Masa, but this Masa is not going to be as powerful or as it is in the vanilla game. It might be a little bit stronger, it might be a little bit weaker, so we'll have to check that out as we run through the seed. So that's it on the incentive tab. Random chests in Volcano and Sea Shrine. Before gating an Earth Cave, random chests in Ice Cave. So make sure you keep all that in mind and take some notes. Moving on to maps, because we don't need to talk about goal, it's just standard defeat chaos. Extended open progression has been turned on, and that changes very little, but the big thing is that you can get to Marsh Cave and Elfland without the ship or the canoe, so do keep that in mind, as that is something that can trip you up if you're in the early game and you don't have the ship and you went to Provoca and you got the chime and you're like, where do I go? Well, you can get to Marsh Cave, so don't forget about that. That's the only thing that's changed here, though, and we're going to introduce, Northern Docks, things like that in later weeks. Moving over to scale, welcome to the theme for the week. There are two key things here that we've changed, which are kind of related. Number one, separate HP scaling for bosses. So bosses will have at least 100% of their vanilla HP, which means they will be quite a bit healthier, and their average is bumped up to over 100% of their vanilla HP. So keep that in mind, that you will need to be a little bit stronger than you're used to. But how do we help you be a little stronger than you're used to? Well, we have blessed and cursed weapons and gear. So what does that mean? It means that all the gear in the game is going to be getting a modifier from -3 to +6, weighted equally, so it's going to, tend towards the positive side, roughly averaging out at, +1 or 2? And these do various things, which I've typed in chat. So weapons, hit increases by 3, except for Masa if it's positive. And what that actually means is you need 1 less fighter level to get to the breakpoint, or 1 more if it's negative. It increases damage or decreases damage by 2, crit by 1.5%. On the other hand, armor, absorbed by 1, but doubled for body armor, so keep that in mind. So it's 2 points for body armor, and the weight penalty by 1 or 2 points for body armor, which just doesn't matter too much. But the big thing I want to keep in mind here is positive is good, negative is bad, and make sure you're adjusting your weapon breakpoints. Yep, go ahead, Darkman. Oh, sorry, you said something?
No, we're good.
Okay,
I'm sorry. My wife was rude for a second. I was muted on stream, and apparently you heard me. Sorry.
Okay, that's all good. Yep. So hit by 3%. The big thing there is the fighter breakpoint. So the Masa, if it is Masa vanilla, it's going to be fighter breakpoint at 24. If it is Masa -1, the fighter breakpoint will be 25 instead. However, remember, hit by 3 except for positive Masa, so even Masa +5 will still be 24, but all other weapons like the defense sword or the Vorpal will decrease in levels as that positive modifier goes down. Let me know if you have any questions about that, or feel free to ask that in our #NewPlayerDuckPond in the Discord. So that is the major change. We really want to make sure that you understand what these blessings and curses do and overall the impact it has on your strategy. So moving into party, one very small change. Black belts are banned. You know why? Because it's weapon week, and black belt fists, unfortunately we can't blessing or curse fists yet.
Yes.
So for now, black belts are banned. So if you want to hit things real hard with your fists, unfortunately this is not the week for you. But spoilers, next week probably will be. So don't worry, black belt love is coming. Moving into classes, the last change is going to be found here. And that is that we have capped magic charges. And the reason we've done this is to make sure that plans for Temple of Fiends Revisited is not just take 4 mages and nuke your way through. Red mages are especially hindered. 4 charges max, which means you can have at most 4 nuke charges, 4 fade charges, 4 life charges. Every level you can have a maximum of 4. Knights and ninjas also with significant nerfs, as well as the mages capped out at 6. Now, this does not mean that you should not bring mages. Mages are still very, very necessary, but it does hinder their ability to just solo bosses. So, hey, swing your weapons that we buffed a lot. With that, let's move into the seed.
Alrighty. Deadpulse, are you ready for us?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Alright.
let's just, before we get started, I just want to quickly ask you about your party selection here, Deadpulse. So what is going on here?
All right, so I'm going with the party that I'm going to suggest for the weekly. It is a fighter, thief, white mage, black mage, and that's specifically because I want to have black magic, i.e. fast, so I'm taking a black mage. I want to have access to either exit or life, so I'm taking a white mage. And because of all of the blurses, I want to have both a fighter and a thief. The fighter for the main damage dealer once I get the Moss Immune, and the thief to first provide support running, because I'm going to have to dive Marsh early and probably Ice Cave early, and I'd rather not have to grind levels to get that. But at the end, the thief can also be a viable damage carry, so that's my plan going through.
Yeah, and another thing about the Thief is that because we don't have Northern Docks on, the floater is guaranteed. Now, the tail isn't, but, you know, when you're watching like Spring Tournament flags, the Thief not being able to promote is a big problem, because sometimes you just go floaterless. Well, here you're guaranteed the floater, so if you find the tail even at a reasonable time, you're going to be able to swing that probably very, very powerful katana. So I think you can absolutely just go Fighter 3 Mages, and we are going to continue to recommend Fighter Rainbow as just a great overall party, but I think Thieves are going to have a serious role to play here. So Dead Pulse, what's one of the downsides of this party?
The biggest downside is you're only going to have one black magic caster, and unless you get Fade at an early level, it's going to be very hard to get levels. Not only that, but because the Thief, because you're not going to be able to promote, you know, right away, probably in the first 20 minutes. That Thief is only a run bot, so you're not going to be even getting, like, experience going through. So it is very possible that I leave the Inner Sea at level 10 or less.
Excellent. Great analysis. And if you want... Yeah, so Enlightening Fart asking, saying Thief sounds significantly buff fixed. So its only buff that it has here is none of the crazy buffs, but it does have double hit rate, which means it will swing more frequently than the Knight. It will get more swings faster than the Knight. So that is its major advantage, as well as, of course, its run chance, which is fixed in the randomizer. Yeah, so without further ado, Dead Pulse, do you want to get going here?
Oh yeah, count me down.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! And we're going to be seeing that on stream in about 10 seconds. Now, if this party talk interests you at all, we do have the Duckling Weekly Party Suggestions channel in our Discord, so make sure you check that out for any to get some other ideas from our runners.
That's an interesting mix right there. Like, I don't mind the Harm 4, because at least it's like subpar nuke. Wall's okay, especially if we don't find any ribbons. I think I'd hold off on everything else there at white. Like, that's just meh. But hopefully the black's better.
Yeah, the wall is also important because we don't have a guaranteed ribbon. Okay, level 1 fast, but
yep.
You know, Dead Pulse is gonna have to show our, you know, how to deal with a not so great, like, you know, immediate magic start.
I am
picking up Confuse.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I'm really glad it's weapon weight because the magic didn't show up to play.
Okay, that's working as intended. So just quickly, Harm 4 only works against undead, but it actually has the same damage numbers as Fade.
Yep.
So Harm 4 is going to be very good. You want to always cast Fade over Harm 4 because it has a higher hit percentage, but yeah, that's minor.
So I think we're gonna be. So I'm sorry if I talked over there. I think we're gonna be going with some chainmails and some wood sticks +5 because they're cheap and that's what we got.
Now you might not have seen that because Dead Pulse did it very quickly, but Dead Pulse pressed select, and that showed the entire stats of the weapon or armor. So if you ever want to just quickly at a glance figure out what the stats of some armor or weapons are, you can always press select in the shop menu. Also notice that the characters are putting up their hands if they can equip it, so they're going into their victory pose, so keep that in mind.
It's good to see we got... Oh, sorry. I was going to say, it's good to see that we've got tents here. The saving items are nice to see. 75 gold's a little expensive for them, but they're still worth buying. Heals are also there, another thing to keep an eye out for. I think I saw houses were available as well, and of course the standard pures and softs.
Yeah, so what Darkmoon means by standard is that pures and softs are always going to be available in Provoca, or sorry, Canaria. But heals, houses, and save items are not. So you want to take an especial note if there's no heal pots there, because oftentimes you're going to try and stop there before you go to the Temple of Fiends Revisited, and you're going to get blocked.
I think Jat just found about 7 grand right there, which is going to give him his walking around money. And a lot of early encounters here right now, but nothing too terrible. Looks like Jat's going to take this ghoul, probably get himself level 2. There it is. Have a little extra stopping power for when we go to Garland.
Yeah, and note that Dead Pulse is gonna go fight Garland no problem because those blessed weapons. If this was this party with 5 just vanilla wooden sticks,
yeah,
you could probably get there with Confuse, but you wouldn't love it.
So
However,
I was going to say something to note about this. Jad had Confuse, great spell early in the game. It has a good chance of stopping stuff. Garland killed himself, no less, so you got to see the rare chance where a fighter actually had to go and take their, or a warrior had to go and take their action afterwards, which almost doesn't happen normally. Gets the key and the ship. But if you're wondering how Garland was doing that, he got confused and he attacked himself by casting, of all things, fire. That's how this game is coded. When someone attacks themselves, they cast fire upon themselves. Key and ship, gold +6, silver dagger +5. We are... Oh, and the canal. Well, we're on the sea, Jat. Where are we going?
So there's a couple options, but once again, let's go back to the heuristic that we talked about last week, which is given not an exceptional circumstance, your second play should almost always be to go to Provoca. And here, yes, we could leave the Inner Sea, but there's no reason to skip out on level 2 magic and a key item, especially because we don't have a sweeper. So this is a very, very clear Provoca play.
And that armor he got, that gold +6, is great. Throw that on your frontline character, they're going to be able to take a lot of these early and mid-game hits and just shrug it off.
So let's talk quickly about the impact of Blessed and Cursed gear. So the big impact is overall, it's a huge buff to melee weapon characters. So the fighter, the ninja, the reason is because even though some things will roll down, you get to choose what you equip. So you can just choose not to equip the things that roll down and only equip the things that roll up. So that is why this makes a big impact. The other thing is it does encourage you to definitely check the early weapon and armor shops, just because you can get some serious endgame type gear with like a chain +5 even, or any sword +5 or +6 is going to be fantastic. So this is magic.
It's
Life
actually
2
not bad.
Life 2 and Invis 2 are both excellent and important endgame spells. Life 2 is the best life spell in the game. Invis 2 brings your whole party up evasion stacks. Now, it's not so good when you can only cast a single Invis 2, but it's still very valuable. And of course, in Black Magic, we got Temper, so if we ever wanted to see a seed where we don't have great sweepers, but we have the best weapons and the best buffs, this is the seed. Dead Pulse rolled a good one.
Yeah, the Ice 2, the Temper, the Lock 2, I think every spell you mentioned was important. One thing I am amused by is Dead Pulse going with this cheeky Confused play instead of just using the Ice 2, which he had a charge for, just because he could.
Yeah, so I think the idea here is, Ice 2 will be the faster play, but Dead Pulse is just showing that like these weapons, you can more than take down the pirates without casting a spell. These weapons are going to be very, very powerful.
And he's level 5 now, and gets a cowbell. Our multi-instrumental Sarah swap-in for the loot. So as far as like actually getting through Topher itself once it's unlocked, we have the 2 items we need. You need the key, you need the loot. Both of those have been achieved. Now we just need everything we need to like navigate the rest of the world.
We also actually already have a full endgame plan set up, which is kind of funny because we have a knight with life. Once it promotes, we have a white mage with life. We have a knight and a white mage with Invis 2, but of course we only have one knight cast, so we don't want to cast Invis 2 with it. But regardless, we have wall, so we don't need a ribbon as badly, and we have fast and temper at level 1 and 2. So we just need to find that Masa, and we can basically beat the Temple of Fiends Revisited, which is excellent.
Oh yeah. So now it really is just a matter of finding the key items to unlock it, unlock the rest of the game, and then. I mean, it's gold +6s, man. We know the Mazda is guaranteed. This might be one of the few seeds where you're sitting there going, I don't know that I need the class change unless I really want those spell charges on the Knight and Ninja, because Mazda... Yeah.
I mean, life 2 on the Knight, even if it's only 1 charge, is incredibly powerful, because keep in mind that 1 charge of life 2 can be used to bring up your white mage, who can then bring up everyone else. But
it's like if I don't find... If Floater and Tail are at the very end game and I'm already in go... Like, okay, as a duck, totally. I'm gonna go for it because I want that charge, and I want the class change, and I want the gear. But, long-term play, I can see taking the risk. Ice shield +4. Wow, that's gear rolled up.
Yep. So remember, we've weighted the gear to like try and roll up, which is going to be very, very nice. Also, note that Dead Pulse did the key check first before doing the the check here, which is really smart because it can make sure you have enough funds to buy things.
Not that he was hurting for cash, since I think he was sitting on like 13 grand already.
Yeah.
Heal 3, Warp. Those are the spells that I saw that were worthwhile. Warp is going to be great for navigating through some of the dungeons we're running into later.
Yeah, so Warp is going to allow you to basically get out of dungeons quickly and skip chests in Ice Cave, as well as go quickly through Ordeals. Heal 3, just a great, it's the mass healing spell. It's most used out of battle, but also, of course, is helpful in battle. And here we finally have our first kind of major sweepers.
Yep.
Lit 3, Ice 3, and Quad X for single target damage. So we don't quite have the charges for that, but it's going to be good enough. Now, with this exact set of magic, I believe the play that I would make is to go to Marsh. The reason is because you have Harm, which can take care of some of the packs in there.
Harm 4.
And you have Warp, which those two things combined make Marsh a pretty nice play. It also is a vanilla Marsh, so you know exactly where to get it, which makes it pretty quick. Dead Pulse quickly, they're showing, wants to make sure that at this point with this much money that he stocks up on all of his kind of items, so heals, pures, tents, etc., just to make sure
There's
he's in a good
plus
position.
6s. That's good to know here, because that means that when we have the cash for it, we can start stocking up on that armor. Something else I want to point out, Jat, just to go back to the magic, we had Quad X at Black Magic, which is great, and Quad X is, I think, a buy for a lot of us, depending upon, because it's anything at 300 health or less will just instant die to Quad X, as long as it's actually a living creature, so not the undead, not golems, not something like that. But the other thing we had at that level was Lightning 3 and Ice 3. And I know you and I have had discussions in the past before about which you take at that point and why and what spell is better. A lot less things resist Ice 3 than they do Lightning 3. But with the Harm 4 that we had at level 1, I might be inclined, especially since it was 2 grand cheaper, to pick up the Ice 3 over the Lightning 3.
So yeah, Lightning 3 is kind of the jack of all trades. But Ice 3 is more powerful when it's more powerful, which is it has a higher damage number, and there's some really good enemies that are weak to it that you can really abuse with Ice 3. Remember, it can actually roll more damage than Nuke.
Yep.
That all being said, with the amount of money that Dead Pulse has, of course the answer is to buy both. But if you could only buy one, you want to pick up Lightning 3 here over Ice 3, just because you already have Harm. So Harm combined with the Lightning 3 gives you the widest net, or the widest range of enemies you can deal with. So Dead Pulse is deciding to do the Marsh play. I'm 95% sure this is what he would have done anyways, although I guess Ordeals, as a meme, would be calling him.
Okay, so here's the thing. The spells we have aren't bad for Ordeals. The levels we have aren't good for Ordeals. And I think if you're playing like a duck, you go to Marsh, even though Marsh is the scary dungeon, quote-unquote, because, everyone's like, hashtag never Marsh. But you're right here. It's meant for characters that are slightly lower level, and you've got, like, enough ammo in your belt to be able to take it on. I think, as a duck, I feel like Ordeals would be too advanced to play.
See, I kind of agree, but I kind of dislike the, as a duck thing, and more just, I think Marsh is just the better play.
I think encouraging them to do it is a good idea. I just think, your average duck is going to sit there and go, I should go to Marsh first. So, maybe we should tell them, go to Ordeals in this particular case, and Dead Pulse exited immediately, but I think we're too late now.
No, Marsh is definitely a good play. Remember, the other thing too is that dungeons that are, it's not random chests, they're going to be quite fast, so you can just get in and out of here very quickly. And you never know what information you're going to gain, and one thing you want to get right away is information if you can. Free information is great. That's why we go to Provoca, because it tells you about spells and it tells you about the item you're getting. So Light Axe, a good pickup. It casts Harm 2.
It's also just a decent weapon. I don't think Light Axe gets as much love as it could generally, because in the vanilla game you get better swords by the time you have to deal with it. And in the randomizer, okay, so we have multi food Titan on as well, because we got chips.
Yeah, so Dead Pulse making a decision here to not use a warp charge here, which makes sense. Remember, Dead Pulse has limited warp charges,
Yep.
so that's why he's saving them here, because he only has 2. But does get out of there successfully, picks up the chips, which is the ruby, with Titan's favorite food, fun % flag on. And that's going to give us another option. So I think this is a pretty easy ruby turn in. And then maybe we head over to, I think I would probably go to Crescent Lake, but you could also go to Ordeals. The reason that I like kind of Crescent Lake is just getting up to like level 8 before doing Ordeals would be very, very nice with only a single black caster.
Well, and the thing is, okay, so we got the ruby early, which is, that earlier ruby flag we talked about. The benefit of having the ruby early and with the flags that we have turned on is, unlike in the vanilla game, you don't have to go fight the vampire first to turn in that ruby. You can go to take the ruby over to Titan, then just sail your way over to Sarda, and you can get the free Sarda item. And we don't have a free canoe because this is spring tournament flags right now. So Dead Pulse can't park at the river system like he likes to do and cheekily go over to Crescent Lake that way. But we can go turn in the ruby at Sarda. The other thing to point out, and Dead Pulse may or may not have done this without us saying anything, is that because trap tiles are shuffled, we could go see what's over at the Hall of Giants at Earth Cave and maybe find something to get some of those levels you were talking about.
Yeah, so while the Hall of Giants is a play you could make, and I don't think it's a terrible one, I think I would try and avoid grinding as just a concept for this week. Not to say that it's strictly bad, but just like this week, next week we will focus on grinding, but for this week I think I would rather the Ducks focus on kind of a walk and grind style strategy and see if they can execute on that.
You just said you wanted them at level 8. They can get level 8 right there and cast some nuke while they're at it.
So you can get level 8 in Earth, but I think the preference for me would just be to do it when you're in Crescent Lake near Crescent Lake anyways. It will take 2 or 3 fights, and you're going there anyways. But yeah, that's a valid point.
Nuke was a 3rd slot, I believe, so we're not getting that until after class change. Yep.
And once again, if you're ever wondering what spells you can buy, just make sure you're watching whether or not your characters make that victory pose animation or not. Unfortunately,
throw their hands in the air, shake them like this, don't care.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Melman slot 3 is the vanilla warp slot, which is the only promotions lock slot for the Black Mage, in level 5 or below.
Yeah. So we haven't yet found the shop item. And Dead Pulse may just get level 8 here without even having to go outside of Crescent. But we haven't can't cast Nuke yet. Oh, you did buy Nuke, so it wasn't slot 3. Okay, thank you, Dead Pulse, for pointing that out. We haven't found the shop item yet, was what I was trying to say. So we could go to Crescent Lake and go look for whether or not the shop item is there and see what it just might turn out to be, because we're flush with cash right now. We also did just get the rod, as Dead Pulse really wanted to emphasize for us, before he got stuck by this transport.
Dead Pulse was also showing that you can warp out of Sarda. I think that was the other thing that he was trying to show. So,
that's fair.
Don't forget that.
If we wanted to do Earth Cave, I don't recommend it right now, but if we wanted to do Earth Cave because we're here, the proximity play is there. It is an incentivized dungeon, if I'm not mistaken, and that does mean we could go clear the whole thing if we wanted to.
I think Earth Cave is a pretty tempting play at the moment. Even without the rod, Earth Cave might have been a tempting play. We both forgot Dark Moon because we've been watching too much Spring Tournament, but we actually can't go to Ordeals because we don't have the canoe.
You're the one that said Ordeals, okay?
I know. I've been playing too much Spring Tournament, but...
Chat's making the comment that because Earth Cave is incentivized, the proximity play is a lot more viable. I don't necessarily disagree. With the money we had, pick up a couple houses ahead of time, come over here. I might go do a quick little cheeky Hall of Giant grind to get myself level 12, level 13, just so that the bottom floors of Earth Cave are a little more viable. Like, I'm not gonna do a huge amount of grinding if I'm not going all the way down. But if I'm actually gonna go down into Earth Cave, I want a few more levels under my belt.
Yes, I agree. I think if you're going to go all the ways to Lich, you may want to do a grind, but we'll see what Dead Pulse decides to do. I also want to point out that Dead Pulse is using encounter manipulation here, so that's why there's 3 or 4 really quick encounters off the power cycle, and then there's a long run. So Dead Pulse is taking advantage of that, but that is something that we'll cover in a later week. But essentially, the way it works is Flame Armor is nice. Essentially, the way it works is that each time you hard reset the console, you're going to go back to the same point, the same number in the encounter table, and that number is going to be, you know, a random number from 0 to 256. And then as you take a step, you're going to progress forward. So, you know, 100, 150, 40, 30. But the key thing is that if you hard reset the console, it's going to go back 100, 150, 30, 40. And what that means is that you can essentially burn encounters by soft resetting, which does not reset the encounter table, to get rid of some nasty encounters, which is what Dead Pulse is doing right now, in order to get to long runs. So basically a combination of hard and soft resets will do the trick. We do have a decent grind here, but we don't have the spell that we really want.
No, and that's the problem is, like, the slime... Oh, no, we do not have a decent grind. That danger, Will Robinson. That's a bad grind.
Yeah. So not only do they have Bane, they also are only really weak to fire or crits.
Yeah.
And we do not have fire magic, so not really what we're looking for.
We do have Knight with Ice Shield +4, Flame Armor, and now an Iron Helm +4. That fighter is a fantastic tank right now.
Yeah, no, the fighter is very, very strong. So Dead Pulse is continuing down. Now, Dead Pulse will have to make a decision. With Fast and Temper, this could easily be a Lich kill. The question is, do you want to risk the lower floors? Not so much because of, just because of going through them and potentially, like, dying to something. I think it's a good play, but we'll see what Dead Pulse decides to do. And yeah, we reset out of the helm.
Totally.
So these have Trance, which is not ideal.
That's not ideal, but it doesn't seem to be hitting. Like, something about how these characters roll. Oh, well, okay.
Ooh. And a very, very nice pickup.
The rich get richer in this particular instance.
So keep in mind, the ribbon, what it does is, yes, it's the ribbon +4, woohoo, which means it has 5 hull absorb instead of 1. But it is, bar none, the most important thing you can find loose in a box in this flag set, because it is irreplaceable in terms of giving you resistance to all elements. All types of magic. So very, very important pickup. And also important, there's the canoe.
So this is an interesting thing to think about here, and I want to discuss it for a second. Is we found the canoe on the second floor.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 shots of warp that we know because we were just using them over at Marsh Cave. Like, it looks like Dead Pulse is going to keep continuing down. I'm not saying that's a bad decision. I'm just saying that our levels are still low, and we already found the incentive item. In my head, that changes the math about where I want to be, potentially.
Yeah. I think keep in mind, with Blur Skier and Fast and Temper at level 1, you can easily kill Lich. So, and if we're opening no boxes, the rest of Earth is a little scary, but, you know, we haven't seen anything that's truly terrifying other than Trance, which could just waste a lot of time. So, yeah.
Okay, I've got a question in chat about negative rolls on the ribbon and whether or not you put the thing to 0. Anything can have a stat of 0 when it comes to armor and weapons, but they can't go negative. So, like, if you have a ribbon and it has, like, say, -5 on it, it can't be -4, and the worst it can be, as far as I know, is 0.
Yes, correct.
But the problem with it is that it also can gain weight, because that's a quote-unquote positive stat that's increasing how much it weighs, and that would actually mean that you get less evade off of a heavy ribbon that's in the negatives, even though the absorb is still quote-unquote the same.
Dead Pulse also very correctly pointing out, perhaps, to us that not only is Lich going to be able to be killed by melee attacks, we also just have Harm 4, which will work very well against both Lich and the Vampire here, so...
Harm 4 is a great, honestly, Harm 4 is a great spell. Fighting as early as they did, it's almost always a buy for me. Yeah, it only works against the undead, but there's a lot of undead in the game, and as long as it's not sharing a level with, like, Fade, Harm 4 is still on my list to pick up.
Yeah. And yeah, hate correctly pointing out that Absorb will always be at least 1. It's 1 bounded, but yeah, there's no negative, there's no 0.
Yeah,
which
you know,
is,
I said it, and then immediately was like, I'm saying it wrong. I know I am.
Yeah, so Harm 4, because the White Mage doesn't have a lot of, like, you know, damage utility without Fade, a really important pickup, especially in the early dungeons. That's why Harm 4 at level 1 or 2 is way more valuable than Harm 4 at level 5, because it's especially helpful in Earth and Marsh.
Yeah, people think of it as the White Mage doesn't have attack spells besides Fade, but that's not entirely true. They have the whole Harm selection, it's just that Harm's only quote-unquote good against the undead.
does anything against the undead.
It's. I mean, well, it's Hard Force nuke damage against, or fade damage against the undead. That's not bad. The limits of
So
Ice 2, right here.
Yep. But of course, arachnids don't resist Ice 2. It's just Ice 2 isn't the best sweeper in the world. We do get away.
Yeah. It's better than Ice 1.
And here's the Lich fight. So our plan here is probably going to be to cast some harm, heal our party up, and then maybe fast and temper our knight just as a backup. But the main strategy here is going to be getting enough harm force off to kill Lich. So Lich...
Harm 4 alone can kill Lich.
Yeah, let's talk quickly about the changes in HP, right? So Lich has 400 vanilla HP, and because the HP is clamped, which means that it is minimal at 100%, it will have at least 400 HP and up to 600. So it's a pretty tight range, but just keep in mind you're not going to kill it with a single fade roll, for example.
That looked like a min-range Lich right there. I don't think that he did very much more than 400 health, so...
Yep. So
Lich is
down goes Lich. Excellent play by Dead Pulse to go and clear Earth while we were there. Didn't even have to warp out, and we get to continue on.
Oh, good. You have been checking the tracker. I completely forgot. Thank you, Chad. And now we're going to Ordeals, because now we have the canoe. We have the canoe.
Yeah, so we do not have Northern Docks on here, so Dead Pulse is deciding to prioritize Ordeals, or he could still be going to Crescent Lake, but yeah, this is almost certainly an Ordeals play.
Yeah, I mean, you could go Waterfall, but I wouldn't, because...
No Northern Docks. No Northern Docks.
Oh, there you go, okay. But
so yeah, this is an Ordeals play.
He could sail past.
This is something that we talk about. It's a route that I quite like, which is hitting Ordeals if you have warp on the way to Crescent Lake, because then you finish off by doing Ice Cave and Volcano as your kind of last possible locations, versus doing the river system first and then maybe last locationing the floater in Ordeals. The river system is very slow, and there's a huge delta between the river system by canoe and the river system by floater. On the other hand, Ordeals, there's actually relatively small delta between those, just because you have to walk so far to get to Ordeals. So because of that, Ordeals by ship and canoe makes a lot more sense than Ice and Volcano by ship and canoe.
So you're seeing here... Yeah, I was going to say,
Okay.
one interesting detail is that Dead Pulse is making its way through Castle Ordeals, and the pillars in Castle Ordeals can, and currently are, randomized in the, randomized, in Final Fantasy randomized twice in a sentence. Screwed me up there for a second. There will always be a path through. Every portal will go somewhere. There's not going to be any, weird duplicates or anything that weren't in the vanilla game. But the other thing to point out, which I think he did once there near the end, you can use Warp to bounce yourself back to a portal if you take the wrong one. So that allows you to short-circuit a little of the maze of Ordeals.
Yes, absolutely. So definitely keep that in mind. And you can see here this on week 2, Dead Pulse is going a lot faster in terms of we're not stopping and waiting for as many things to occur. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in chat, and we want to make sure. Well, a very nice second ribbon pickup. That's huge.
Again, we're not looking at a lot of armor needs at this point. And the tail, so we can class change if we want to.
Which we almost certainly do just for the thief. But
this
as you kind of mentioned, it's not required.
So Volcano is not incentivized, if I recall correctly. We can't get to Sky.
Volcano is incentivized.
Is it? I thought, which one is it incentivized then?
Sky.
Sky. Oh, okay, thank you. I had them flipped in my head because I'm too used to Spring Tournament.
Yeah.
So that means that the key items we're looking for can all be right there in a row. The Ice Cave, Volcano, and Crescent are all available to us. And so, I mean, I think Crescent's your first play, and then Ice? I guess Ice because it's shorter?
It's tricky. So, Ice, so the first thing that you look at is which one can I clear safely? And the answer is not really either. You don't love either of them.
I think I'm thinking Ice because we have a lot of warp charges now, so we might be able to short circuit a certain amount of it.
I was just about to say, so the kind of the deciding factor here is warp. Do you have warp or exit? Because Ice is a lot faster with warp and exit than Volcano, which you want to kill carry. But on the other hand, Volcano is both closer and it's easier to get a few levels in and then warp out and then go back in with a house.
See,
so think they're both valid plays, but Crescent Lake first is obvious.
Yeah, I'm still worried about levels, and like a low-level carry play can go real bad real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So carry has 600 HP minimum and up to 900, right? So that's going to take multiple nuke casts, and weapons at this point aren't going to be super. Oh boy,
God,
aren't going to be
pack.
super great. So just you got to keep that in mind.
I'm just saying right now that pack alone indicated to me not going to Volcano just yet because we're gonna see those bulls again.
So Deadpool's checking the item shop here. This is really important. There are no we still have not found the item shop incentive, so we got to make sure we keep checking that. Also finding pro rings. Unfortunately rolled down, but
The first
still important.
first piece of gear we've seen that's actually essential that rolled down.
Mm-hmm. But still, like, these are incredibly well equipped. Everyone, right?
And those pro rings are cheap.
Yeah, we have all the armor. We have multiple ribbons.
Yeah.
We're in great shape, and I really like this play by Deadpulse picking up the pro rings. Remember, pro rings not only provide absorb, in this case 6, they also provide resistance to death, which is huge because one quad X can end a run, right?
Okay, so there's our fade along with the entire selection of cures in the game.
Mm-hmm. So slot 1 and 4 are both White Mage learnable. I will post the link to that in chat just so people have it on them. And I think Deadpulse just skipped level 6 Black Magic, which is a good play because we don't need anything anymore. We have Nuke, we have Fast, we have Temper, and we don't have decisions to make anymore. We got the floater, so things are a lot better.
He did check it, but decided that the White Magic was way more valuable, which Cure and Fade. Then talked to the sages and got the floater, so now we're airborne. Right here, and that's, again, Crescent Lake play for that, so valuable.
Yeah. Now, this is a difficult question. So now that we actually have options again, it's what is safe, where can we go and clear relatively easily? And I think the safest thing is either the shop item to check, which is what Deadpulse might do here, and then I kind of like the waterfall play with Ice 3, with Lit 3, and with Warp. Now, the downside to that is you don't really want to double-dick the on-rat continent, so we could also go to Volcano, we could also go to Ice, but Deadpulse is going to promote first. This makes a lot of sense.
Well, I don't see the harm while you're here. Like, just go and check the Cardia Isles, because you never know if you might find that, like, now that your class changed, Katana or Dragon or something else. You're here.
I really don't like the Cardia check here, just because we already have 2 ribbons, and, like, okay, from a racing perspective, I don't like it. From a, like, trying to, be safe perspective, it's totally fine. But I feel like we already have, like, 2 ribbons, which are the biggest find we could possibly get. We don't really need more
We
more
don't
gold.
have our endgame weapon for both our characters yet, though, is my only reasoning. Like, if we already found a Katana or a Vorpal in a previous box, I skip Cardia at that point. But Mazza's the only one that's guaranteed, and we're missing an endgame weapon for the other of our melee people.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it does pick up a Thor Hammer, which is a nice prize here, casting Lit 2. And also note the one that Deadpulse chose to go to, which is the most populated one first, and going to skip the other ones. So that makes a lot of sense. So remember, if you're going to check a single Cardia, make sure you check that one, because that one has the most chests in it. So the one to the southeast of the promotion location. And it looks like Deadpulse is going to do Ice over... So the choices here were Ice, Waterfall, or Volcano, and we're going to choose Ice over them. Now, I think this comes down to a combination of, we want some levels, we can kill most things in here with harm, and not only that, we also have Warp. So those kind of combine to be, this is pretty nice. We don't really feel comfortable killing Carry yet, so... Now, if you're a little bit less experienced, this is a very scary play. Anytime you're going into Ice below level 10, you should be aware that you are flirting with disaster. That's not to say that this is a bad play, just keep in mind that you should know that this is risky and things might go bad, which means if things do go bad, make sure you make adjustments. That doesn't mean it's not a good play, it just means, like, no, this might not work, and if it doesn't, I need to have a backup plan. Okay, I like the decision to take out the mages there. So Deadbolts could have chosen to take out some of the undead packs prior, but once again, we're just heading down, and we have warp and exit and things like that, so we're able to get out of here relatively safely. So wanted to take a few levels and then figure out what we're gonna do next. So gonna go in here, use our warp charges.
Found a Zeus Gauntlet, more AoE.
Yeah. And Deadpulse purposely hitting the chest a few times there to show that, look, this is not vanilla Ice Cave. The incentive item was not in that chest. So remember, this is random chest and dungeon in Ice Cave, so you're going to need to make sure that you clear everything until you find the incentive.
Ooh. Well, I mean, we class changed. If we want to get some levels and get that one charge on our fighter, we could do it right here with some ice.
Yeah, so we don't really have a great way to kill this eye, but it's relatively low HP, and we definitely can kill it. So I think I would be taking this at least a few times. Now, once again, this is Blurst Weapon Armor Week. This is very much like how to run fighter comps rather than black belt comps, so we don't really want to sit here till we're level 30, right, across the board, or take down a single character. But taking this party up to level 15 or something here, very, very nice.
Yeah.
Now, Deadpulse can stop kind of wherever he wants, but don't be afraid to take some levels on grind tiles, but don't sit here until you're in your 20s with a 4-man. That's not what you want to be doing. I feel like 15 is probably where I would stop.
You're only going to get one in this flag set. You're only getting one charge on the fighter anyway. So like the benefits of doing a long grind here, it's not quite there because you're going to get levels everywhere else, I guess. You can already see it's starting to pay off, though. He's starting to swing for some good damage there.
But I think you could stop really wherever. I think things that I'm considering is like, where do I get some more nuke charges? That's really the main one. Outside of that, not too much else important. Sir Tobalot, close cousin to Sir Lancelot. I don't actually know if you are, but very, very close name to one of our community members. Asking where the floater was. The floater was in Crescent Lake. So Bert saying maybe not what you want to be doing, and while I want to point out this, we're saying we do not want to be grinding tiles in general. I think it's very, very good to get some nuke charges here, and we're really not good at killing enemies, right? In like the places that we want to grind normally, like Sky and C, we can kill them with Lit 3, it's okay, but we really want some levels just to like make sure we can go kill Carry, for example, right? So I think getting levels here rather than taking other fights in Ice Cave, the eye is going to be faster and safer. So, that eye grind makes a lot of sense.
Something else that Deadpulse pointed out to us while we were looking at his magic menu is the fact that we have Cure 4 and Fade at level 6, and even after that little mini grind he did right there, still doesn't actually have any charges earned for that. So, like, I think because of where they were and how vital those spells are, taking those few extra levels just to try and get him closer to having the ability to use them wasn't a bad call.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So getting ambushed here, but another thing that Deadpulse has done really well in the seed that I want to point out to people who are struggling is he prepared extremely well in terms of buying armor. Yeah. Right? We have gold bracelets, pro rings. We have... I'm not going to highlight the weapons because those aren't as important here, but those armor choices really made this party a lot safer to run. And we got the TNT there. Now, Deadpulse could... So the default play when you get a fetch item is to turn it in. That's the default play. But what changes that is proximity routing, and that's exactly what Deadpulse here is doing, is proximity routing to Volcano because there's an incentive item here, and we can kill Carry. So I think the Volcano play making lots of sense.
Not immediately going to do that hairpin chest. We might see whether or not he does that now after doing this one here. Hairpins is that one that's in that back and forth maze there. Here we go, doubling back for that.
So in terms of like how you clear dungeons, there's lots of different choices. It comes down to some personal preference, what you're trying to do. The routing that Deadpulse is selecting, this is actually not too terrible with Ice 3, but Deadpulse deciding he's got enough levels, is going there kind of last and then being able to warp out. So nice use of the warp spell there to save a bunch of steps.
This room right here is what we tend to call the armory. For oh, there's a flame sword. That's going to help him out for immediate damage and long-term damage. But yeah, this is the room that we call the armory. If you hear any vets quote-unquote call it that, just so you know what we're talking about.
Too much good gear. What do we get rid of? Okay, and oh, another like not terrible fight. We said we don't want it though. We got enough.
Yeah, we are. Our cup runneth over for gear at this point. It is very good.
Yeah, so Dead Pulse is deciding to run from a lot of these fights. Now, if he didn't take the eye grind, you definitely might see him taking more, but we're kind of right around the level that we want to be in order to clear most of the game. Now, you basically can say that you're going to get somewhere like 2 to 4 levels in Sky, and then you can get another 2 to 4 levels at this scaling in Sea Shrine. So with all that in mind, and with the goal of our knight being level 24 in order to swing that massa, you can kind of just do the rough math in terms of like how many levels you want to get before you go there. And we find the Volcano incentive, which really nice pickup. Now, because there's a few reasons why you go all the ways out here. One, to get all your charges back. Another thing you can do though is, and this is what Dead Pulse is doing actually, is if you have a long run somewhere in the table, you can purposefully go all the ways out so that way you can get back on that long run. Now for longer dungeons it's not as important, but for Volcano it actually helps a lot, because Volcano sometimes you can get through with one encounter if you have a long enough run somewhere in the table. So
well, the encounters are so front loaded that burn off the early ones, you might just be able to get that hero run when you're looking for it.
Exactly. So also note Dead Pulse, of course, walking on the fire tiles. The reason for this is that they do not lead to an encounter causing step, which means you cannot get encounters on these tiles. And it doesn't save it up for later either, it just doesn't advance it. So all in all, it's just really, really nice, especially with heal 3.
Yeah, we'll use the deck of cards analogy a lot while we're discussing like how the encounter table works. And we have a whole write-up of that in the resources section of the Final Fantasy Randomizer website, all about how the encounter table works, if you're interested. But essentially, if you think of it like a deck of cards, and each time you take a step, you flip a card, if you're walking on lava, you're literally just not flipping cards. So the deck itself does not progress.
Excellent. Yes. Okay, and we're on to carry. So the plan on carry, we'll see what Dead Pulse decides to do. Basically, it's going to be nukes and swings for the most part. But, oh, no, looks like we're going to be going fast instead. So we're going to be going more all in on the knight, which I think is reasonable because we don't have enough nuke charges, really. This knight is exceptionally well armored, which means it's quite safe, especially coupled with that wall. And as you can see, it's already doing 100 damage. So carry 600 to 900 HP. So Dead Pulse deciding to go with fast on turn 1, knowing it's going to be a kind of a multiple turn fight, and then nuke on turn 2 up to about 400 damage, 500 damage. So carry should die next turn, assuming we get a decent swing and a decent nuke roll.
No, she got a decent swing, that's for sure.
Man, that was not a decent swing from the knight.
No, it was he was slapping that wet noodle around. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's still swinging the wear sword right now, which is curious because I thought we got like a flame sword +4.
Yeah, I mean, the general rule is that it's not that important to like upgrade your sword minorly. Like the difference there is going to be like 10 hit or 10 damage at most. But it's a valid point. Now, Quad X, really nice play there by Dead Pulse, knowing that, remember, this carry has a very tiny HP range, 600 to 900, which means if you've done more than 600 damage, Quad X will kill carry. Quad X is effective against all enemies in the game,
It's got the bane.
except for things that resist, or sorry, all the fiends is what I meant to say, except for Chaos, so make sure you use Quad X. Now, this is another proximity play. Once again, the default play when you pick up something like the TNT is to go turn it in, but instead, we're doing all these proximity checks on the way to that, and that makes a lot of sense because this ninja can pick up temper, this ninja can pick up block, and critically, this knight can pick up life.
And yeah, he was swinging the Bane Sword, which is actually a better sword than the Fire Sword. It just was not doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, the levels are still just like slightly low.
Yeah.
And Burnt Like Toast, knowing our command. Excellent work. So gonna quickly pick up Warp on that ninja. And then heal 3 maybe on the knight? Yeah. So the knight spells once again.
Making the knight do YMCA there as he goes up and down the spell list.
The knight spells once again are on this spreadsheet, which I posted in chat. And if you're just joining us, welcome to the Final Fantasy Randomizer Duckling Bootcamp. You're watching week 2, which is focused on weapon, blessing, and curses, which are basically modifiers which I posted in chat, which makes things, which make weapons stronger or weaker by various stats. So that's what the pluses and minuses mean. If you've ever watched this on the disc or like on RPG Limit Break or over on Speed Gaming or Random Mania. So here we go. TNT turn in coming in. Still scared of monster in a box, saving outside.
Before the turn in. The crowns, we have to carry that fetch quest around. And while we're here, proximity play the armory, because, yeah, if we could get a better... Oh, wow. If we can get better gear, which we don't lack for good gear.
Yeah, our gear is too good to the point of, like, we don't know what we're doing. Like, we can't drop anything because everything's excellent. But yeah, Opal plus 6.
Don't forget to re-equip armor on the ninja.
87 absorb on this knight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also you can notice that this ninja can equip that flame armor, right, once it's promoted, so that makes a huge difference. The ninja is so powerful because of the fact it gets such better armor and weapons. And not only does it get better armor and weapons, it also gets access to, of course, a weapon that no one else can use in the katana. So I'm gonna both proximity check / also just turn in the item that we just got. So go kill Astos.
Now, I want to point out, and Deadpulse gave us a practical example of this. When you're moving around your armor and picking up new stuff and everything, make sure you equip your new armor when you did.
Yes.
Yes. I think all of us have at one time or another grabbed stuff and then forgotten to equip it.
Okay, so we got the slab. Now the slab, remember I was just talking about the general rule of when you get something, turn it in. Now I think the translation is definitely automatic response, but there is a legitimate play of Sea Shrine and Waterfall before you do the slab turn in that is a consideration. Now, the problem with Sea Shrine and Waterfall is that if Sea Shrine was vanilla, you knew where the incentive item was, I think I would do that. But because Sea Shrine isn't, and you can potentially have to full clear it, it makes it a little bit closer. I think both plays are valid. We are only 2 items from Go mode though, so you know if Go mode is in Lefane and Waterfall, then maybe we don't open any chests in Sea Shrine. Now, that all being said, we kind of want all the incentive items anyways because we want the Masa. So, you know,
so,
I think this makes sense.
Some like you're talking, we'd have to full clear C and how that's a bad thing. I actually have to admit, because the item now has a almost 50% chance of actually being in Sea Shrine on the Kraken side now. Like, okay, bottle, nice. There's our shop item. Because it actually could be on the path to Kraken now at about almost 50% odds, I think that makes me more likely to do Sea Shrine, not less.
It was also 50% chance of the shop item being there as well. So overall, there was just lots of things driving us to the Onrat continent.
Yeah.
And because of that, Deadpulse decided to make that play, which as I said, it was kind of the first thing that came to mind for me as well.
Taking this because the Frost Gators in this pack are actually worth a fair bit. Good experience to be had there from their tasty, tasty gator meat. Double Frost Gator pack, nice.
Yeah, and you can see Deadpulse wanting a few more levels here. The reason is Deadpulse is thinking about what he wants to do next, and because we want to go into C next, we want a few more levels just to make sure that Kraken fight goes okay, as well as, of course, all the scary things in Sea Shrine.
Yeah, Kraken 2 and the Temple of Fiends Revisited can be scary, but don't sleep on Kraken 1. The Master of Arms can be bad in both incarnations.
Yeah, that being said, our Absorb is insane.
It is. You put the fire up front and just kind of let him do his thing.
Yeah, Kraken
Yeah.
would have to like crit multiple times to
Yeah,
do much
yeah.
of anything.
But when you got 8 arms, you can crit 8 times. Oh, hey, we just saw out of bounds bat. Hey, out of bounds bat. The herb. So we have another turn to do in a little bit. Ooh. You know, going into the Ocean Palace, and actually having the weapon good against fish people, the Coral Sword, not a bad pickup to have right there.
And kind of as expected, we're just going to head straight back.
Yeah, you're here. I think you do it.
Yeah, no, I think this is a pretty, not easy Sea Shrine play. It could definitely, once again, go wrong, but it's not too bad. Sorry, my stream buffered for a second. What did we get in Waterfall?
We got the herb, and then we got a Coral Sword for our efforts while we were there. Coral
Okay.
+3.
Not bad. So the Coral Sword, not really what you want to be swinging in the end game, but, you know, it's
For now.
a decent sword.
Right outside the Water Palace, it's great.
Now, so Dead Pulse does have a decision to make here, whether we want to go Mermaids first or Kraken first. Generally speaking, if you can kill Kraken, you want to go Kraken side first. And that does look like what Dead Pulse is deciding to do here. The other thing is, so yeah, if you need gear or levels, you can go Mermaid side first, but if you can kill Kraken and don't really need gear and levels, which is the case here for Dead Pulse, we just go Kraken side first, hoping we don't need to go to Mermaids at all.
Yep. And of course, what we really needed was a Professional Cape +2, because the game has not given us enough yet.
So, although it doesn't sound like it, the Pro Cape is actually the best shield for the mages. So you do actually want to pick it up, although it's not great. 0 is a lot better, or sorry, 8 is a lot better than 0.
And it's +2, so it's 10. But that's the thing. Well, I know, and that's the thing, is that mages can't use shields. I mean, even the red mage is only limited to the buckler outside of the Pro Cape, and the Pro Cape is just better. So actually having a shield you can equip on your mages, any shield, is better than nothing.
Exactly. And bucklers don't count, because bucklers have 2 absorb.
No, when they roll up. Yeah, so the routing on this floor is interesting, as the way I would put it. The floor is very spaced out, and, like, trying to figure out the optimal route through here to check everything is kind of subjective. I get Deadpool's coming up here and checking this one first is the I really hope it's here proximity play, and then he warps back so he doesn't have to walk down a couple steps. But there's also the well, there you go, there's a katana. Okay. There's also the simple idea of that's the last room that you're going to be checking on the way to Kraken if you go just like a clockwise route around from the bottom room down and around. So if it's on this floor, you're kind of just gambling at what room it's going to be in when you actually start your routing for it.
Yeah, it's minimum steps to full clear or minimum steps to chest density. That's all you're optimizing for, and you know, you can go either way.
Yeah, pretty much.
The chances are it's in mermaids. Unfortunate. Oh. But we do have 2 chests left. Hopeful's +3. Oh, we're going to go back for that? We need more riches, Dead Pulse. Or
how much? I'm sure it's somewhat better, but how much better? Oh, wait, yeah. How
quite
much
a bit,
better
actually.
Is it?
Opal +3 over gold, it's -4, so it's 6 absorb better than the gold, because it's 10 difference base.
Okay.
And there's a 6. Oh, so it's +3 difference, so 4 difference. 4 absorb difference. It wouldn't be as good if it wasn't for the insane
buffs. Yeah.
Buff on the gold bracelet.
Scary
so
ghost
1 chest left here. Yeah, well, the ghost packs are a little bit less scary when you have 85 absorb on your knight, but
and the ninja and the mages are in like the 60s or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, the mages are a normal like vanilla knight endgame absorb.
Well, the white mages anyway. I'm not sure how good the black mage is.
It's probably only at 50 absorb.
Only. Only like, a fighter or a ninja. Oh.
So, no luck on Kraken side, but the reason that you go Kraken side first is if you go Mermaid side first and you have no luck, you get no consolation prize, you just wasted a bunch of time. But if you go Kraken side first and you don't find it, well, guess you get to kill the fish anyways, and you only really wasted an extra maybe minute just clearing like that one floor, right? Because the Sharknado floor, that floor with that routing decision that we talked about, is really the only place where you're taking a bunch of extra steps. So that's why Kraken first makes more sense.
So we're gonna wall, get basically the protection of a ribbon up on that fighter, gonna fast him as well. Fire 2 comes out, which is basically chip damage against all that M-Def we have. 4 hits for 9 damage, and then 3 hits for 49. That is some decent absorb coming out of Kraken.
Yeah, pretty beefy Kraken.
Yeah.
Looks like we're going to be going in on the Katana. So why do we go in on the Katana over the Knight, Dark Moon?
Now, you're going to know the math better than I do on this, I'm sure, but the Katana is essentially a Vorpal sword plus another half of Vorpal on top. It's like if you taped a tinier Vorpal onto a Vorpal. It's a 1.5 Vorpal. And the Vorpal is one of the better endgame weapons out there. We can have a long debate about what the best endgame weapon is, but it's like Masamune and then Excal and then probably Katana. So Katana rates better than just about any other weapon you could throw on that ninja that we have access to right now. And you saw, between the good hit we got off of that fighter for the Bane Sword and then the ninja follow-up, Kraken died.
Yeah. So the Katana has additional crit rate, and you can't buff crit, but you can buff damage. And that's why going in on the Katana is better than the fighter. And I would honestly argue, for the most part, I would rather have a Katana than an Excal, but a Masa over a Katana most of the time.
Well, and that's because the Katana, is basically a Vorpal and a half. And the Vorpal has one of the best crit rates in the game. So you're just like, oh, look, extra crit rate because it's kind of a Vorpal plus, and then we can just keep buffing it for damage. Why wouldn't you?
The Katana only needs one bonk to be very, very effective, versus the Vorpal needs two Temper Saber casts generally. So that's kind of what the difference. So, Dead Pulse choosing once again, just talking about Sea Shrine routing. So this is the first time that we're doing incentive item in Sea Shrine, so that's why I want to talk about it in terms of random chests. Kraken side first, then checks one chest on the way down to Mermaids, and then is going to full clear Mermaids, and then if we don't find anything here, the last place we'll check is the TFC, or the floor before Mermaids. And we find the cube.
And he's like, I have all the gear I could ever possibly want. I am out. No more, no thank you. And I can't blame him for that. Like, aside from finding the third ribbon, what is he really looking for in the way of gear? Like, there's nothing.
Yeah. So, we have 2 locations left. We have gigantic fetch quests remaining. But we will be getting a couple important items here shortly. So we will be finding the chime. We will be finding, and then we'll be finding one of the Masamune or the Power Gauntlet, which will cast Saber. So those are going to be nice pickups. In the ideal world for Dead Pulse here, we are going to find, we're going to find the chime and the Masa, and then we'll be good to go. But, doesn't really matter either way, because, I mean, the last item is a really quick herb turn-in. Like, we've already cleared all of our incentive locations, right?
Yeah. So we got the bottle, so we can do the turn-in, and then we can do the slab turn-in, because we're here, and why not? And then it's just... I think we still have the herb to turn in as well.
Yep, that's
right. Assuming that we don't get what we need to do Sky Palace, because if you're... Okay, well... We're still banking on maybe getting what we need for Sky Palace. Deadpool's just staring at us like, really? Really? I think because I would still do the slap turn-in right here and hope I get the chime. Because I'm right here.
Absolutely.
I'd want to go do Sky Palace, find the key item there, finish out what I'm doing, and then... Yeah. Wait, Sky doesn't have a key item, you were just saying. so we don't even have to check it. We can just straight shot it while we're here if we can get out of the way, which is even faster routing.
Yeah, we just check Lefane because we're here anyways, and then we hope it's the chime, and as you said, then we can proximity route Sky, and it's the crystal. So we have 3 turn-ins in the inner sea now. Dead Pulse.
God, so good, so good. You want a proximity play Sky Palace? No, and no.
And yes, look, our tracker's magically up to date. Yeah, sorry, I apologize. I realized that I missed a bunch of clicking things. We're trying more on the educational side, less on the tracking side. But I was just about to say, hey, we got a bunch of fetch quest turn-ins to do. But
Yeah.
Well, that is true.
Well, because we've played for this game for so long, I'm so used to not using a tracker that it's kind of ruined me as a tracker. Like, I'm supposed to click things? What?
I always use a tracker, even like just whether it's the auto tracker or manual tracking. I've always just done it just as like a, I don't know, muscle memory thing, just to like make sure I'm paying attention. But you know, to each your own. I would highly recommend for newer players to use a tracker. I think it's not a crutch by any stretch. It's just a good ability to. It's just a good habit to get into, I believe, and it will also set you up for entrance floor and other things. Deadpool saying that does not currently like the sky. Does not currently like the Mirage Towers. He is blocked from there. Speaking of trackers, yes, you are allowed to use the auto tracker for the Duck Derby, so please feel free to check that out, and you can take advantage of that. Also, any other pen and paper tracker or online tracker is allowed, assuming it does not provide information. If you aren't sure, let us know, and we can take a look into it, but those are all specified in the official ruled stock. Power Gauntlet, probably the least wanted item out of all of them, but we did pick it up, and of course, we found the chime, we've hit go mode, but we are going to go turn in the herb, because we very badly would like that Masa.
Yeah, well, because then we'll be swinging a Katana and a Masa, and we don't even have to worry about it at that point. The thing about that power bonk, that power gauntlet, is that yes, it's great to have Masa -1. Really? The one sword we were really hoping wouldn't roll down. There we go. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's just going to cast Saber, just quote unquote. And we already have plenty of shots and everything, but we don't have 9 shots. We've only got 6 shots, and we don't. With having the power bonk on one of our 2 characters, we don't have to prioritize who gets shots how. One of them can just take the power bonk, the other one can just be tempered. Yay!
Right.
Yeah. It's good all around.
Yeah, and Bert correctly pointing out, I really, really do want to emphasize, the Masa -5 is still a good sword.
Oh yeah!
It's not a great sword, but it's still a good sword. The Masa -1 is still a great sword.
I think someone did the math, and the Masa -5 is still better than, like, the Vorpal and maybe even the X-Cal, unless the X-Cal rolls up. The Masa is a crazy good sword.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on a lot of situations. But yeah, in general, the Masa is just a really, really good sword. Now, this does give us a great teachable moment, which is that remember, we talked about the interaction between blessed weapons, or cursed weapons, and hit breakpoints, right? So, because the Masa rolled down, our golden Masamune Knight number is 24. You want to be level 24 on your Knight to make sure that you get 5 swings. However, because the Masa rolled down, instead of needing to be level 24, we need to be level 25. So that is going to kind of change our level requirements a little bit. Now, of course, we can go in with a character that's lower level than that, and we very well might be with the levels that we're currently dealing with. However, that is going to be kind of what we generally want to be hitting, is level 25 on that night.
So your question, chat? Huh? You're gonna say?
Yeah.
You go first.
I was going to say, Dead Pulse may just choose to go in lower because of the fact that we have fast and temper and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Like, we're pretty powerful, but, you know, the general rule is going to be to try and hit that Masa breakpoint on the night.
So we had a question in chat about what's better to use, a Masa -3 or a +5 Vorpal, and you're gonna get different answers from people in the community, depending upon what sword they like. But chat, I don't know where you'd stand, but if those were my 2 sword options, I'd probably take the Vorpal +5.
Yeah, so I depends on the answers in chat are mostly correct. It depends on who you're fighting.
Yep.
But against any fiends where you are going to have more than like one turn, you want to be swinging the Vorpal.
Yeah.
Because of the higher crit rate, which remember the thing, crit is good against high absorb enemies.
Yep.
Base damage is good against low absorb enemies, right? So as you get into higher absorb enemies, you up the importance of crit, and the fiends are the highest absorb enemies. So against chaos in particular, you really want that crit. T as well though, and honestly, at that difference of blessings curses, you want that probably against everyone except for Lich. And even then, I wouldn't bother changing, because why?
If I went for levels, yeah, Puff is gonna the knight is gonna benefit from it. But it might just be that I go for some more levels because of that ninja, because the ninja's swinging a katana and isn't really doing a lot of damage just yet.
Okay, chat. Time for a pop quiz. What is the katana breakpoints for a ninja?
We do have it listed on the website, but don't cheat and go to the website, although it is totally listed on the website. Want to thank Randomizer for the raid of 35 people. Thank you very much for coming, and welcome to the party here for this Final Fantasy Week 2 Duckling Boot Camp Showcase. So we're swinging swords at the dragon here, the multi-headed dragon. Dragon comes back with Blizzard, which against this party with the magic defenses that we have, pretty well chip damage. Gonna fade, gonna nuke. Gonna roast and toast that Tiamat. Tiamat squirts out some dark and responds. 7 hits for 212 from the fighter. 8 hits for 126 from that was Ninja and then fighter. Still standing, but we know that the Tiamat's gonna be pretty close to dead at this point. Ninja comes out swinging, fighter comes out swinging. Don't even have to worry about that quad X. Tiamat falls over.
And as mentioned in chat, we have slightly failed the pop quiz, but that's okay. So the critical katana breakpoints are 15, 23, and 31. So 23 is the one that you really care about.
Now is
and
that
the
with...
katana...
I was just gonna say, is that with the fixes on or no?
That's with the fixes on,
okay.
Yes. And you want to make sure that the katana does improve with the positives. So, a katana plus 5, you can hit the extra hit at 26, which is pretty huge.
Now, I don't know what level we actually are at right now, but we're not
21?
Yeah, it's not a high level.
Yeah, Money pointing out the ninja's growing on a lot of me lately. So the ninja has very niche roles, and you should not default to using ninjas. Ninjas are quite strong. Thieves are not generally a good class. They are definitively weaker. Oh, weaker. Okay. They are definitively weaker than most other classes, but they can be excellent role players, especially if you're able to use strategies which involves killing characters off. So... Dead Pulse is about to show us, though, the power of our, negatively rolled Masa. But now, Dead Pulse, you are in chat with us, and I don't know if you want to speak up, but what are some of the considerations for going into the Temple of Fiends Revisited with a lower level party, and what is making this a play that, we are making, even though the general heuristic is not to go in so low level?
So it's all of that blurst armor that kind of rolled up. I have 81 absorb on the fighter. That's ridiculous. I don't feel like if Kraken can punch through that, I deserve to lose.
I see you're trying to use the golf club to smash the tablet, but the golf club can't smash.
Yeah. And what about the problem with non-elemental AoEs? So why do you feel more comfortable with this party than you would with some others versus non-elemental AoEs?
I really don't.
Oh, okay. You actually have a reason, and that's because you have life on the fighter. Your fighter is the only character with over 400 absorb, but it's both your primary damage dealer as well as a massive, with a lot of HP, and it has life. So even if you do get opening turn nuke, which could be a massive problem, your knight could survive and has life. So I think that's a big deciding factor as well. So early fast, early temper, tons of absorb, and life on the night, coupled with 3 ribbons. So all those things combined make for a lot better of a early Topher dive. But, you know, don't try this at home, kids. If these conditions aren't being met, this dive could go very wrong. And even with those conditions being met, this dive still could go really very wrong.
Yeah, with that fighter having life, I get 1 oopsie, and that's about it.
But 1 oopsie is a big deal. Yeah, don't forget, you know, if you've just joined us, an hour and 7 minutes into the seed, we did do a flag reveal earlier, but we have limited spell charges on our characters right now. So the ninja only has 2 spell charges, the knight only has 1.
Everyone say hi and bye to the Lich, by the way.
Yeah, so strategies against carry are almost always going to be lots of damage to try and turn 1 carry. Now, we do have limited fade charges because our levels are very, very low, so we might not be seeing a fade charge used, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a nuke charge, especially considering we're going to be mostly fasting on the later fiends. So, swing, something nuke is probably what I would consider on carry, but we'll have to see what Dead Pulse decides to do. You could even use a fade charge, but the fact is it's also sharing a level with Cure 4. Yeah, and I think that was just a swing, maybe even. Like, just a do nothing. So carry, Fiend, 700 to 10,000, or 1050 HP. So, a little bit beefier, but... Oh, Zap comes out, but not going to be super effective against our very well-ribboned party. And down goes carry on turn 2, so nicely done. And you can really see the value here of bonus having a second melee damage dealer. Now, does the ninja do more damage than the black mage with nuke? Well, maybe not. So that's where some of the downside is, but it absolutely could if it was just a little bit higher level, or the katana rolled up a little bit more. 10,000 HP. That would be some iron gall stuff. And BD Jeffy knows the encounter table well to calculate where the encounter table is going to end up being nasty, which was that big stretch of encounters at the beginning of the encounter table, all appearing on the seafloor. Healing up before Kraken. Now, a lot of the time we suggest moving characters around, right, to try and protect your primary damage to this, but this knight is so well armored that we have no concerns with leaving it in slot 2. The most important character actually to not get punched here is the white mage.
Well, when Kraken comes out with chip damage lit 2, that's really...
So, going with the nuke, and the reason for this is that Dead Pulse is basically calculating that Kraken should be close enough to dead that a temper, if he doesn't get turn order, probably doesn't do anything, but a nuke might take Kraken out. And unfortunately didn't get it there, but this next swing will almost certainly do it. Same calculation here with Quad X. Knowing the HP maximum of Kraken, so Kraken 900 to 1350, that Quad X was guaranteed to kill the Kraken there, or very close to it. On to Tia, similar strategies, nothing much changing, huge absorb, no reason to move the knight down, going to be going with fast, all-inning on the knight. The reason we all-in on the knight is because if the ninja goes down, we're not in any trouble, but if the knight goes down, we're in trouble anyways, so you might as well try and keep your knight alive because it's the one that has over 400 HP to survive the nuke, and you might as well put all your damage on it. I don't think this Quad X is going to work. Yeah, that was a little bit cheeky. Not with like slightly different turn order, it may have, but that's not one of those guaranteed Quad X casts. This time it will work though, and down goes Tiamat. Tiamat 1100 to 1650 HP. Mushman asking something this flag set that makes playing white mage more appealing. One thing is that the red mages, which is usually your white mage substitute, has less spell charges. It only has 4 instead of 6. And the other thing is just that we want to kind of make sure that we're showing parties that have guaranteed access to life just in case something does go wrong. So Dead Pulse trying to decide where we're going to put the Power Gauntlet, and it looks like we are going to be going with it on that knight. This knight is massive, but look at this party level. level 20 across the board. And Deadfall's really showing like the power of this blurst gear. This armor being absolutely massive, early fast, early fade, with a Masamune. All very good stuff.
Oh, bad time for that nuke to come out.
So here's but excellent rolls. Very, very, very good rolls on the mages. This is an immediate cure 4 onto the knight. Yeah. This knight can win.
Okay. Well, this is a major problem. We are in damage control right now. Yeah, we're gonna start. Okay.
Hold A and pray. We're doing decent damage, but Chaos has at least 2,000 HP. And down goes our knight, even with all that absorb. And maybe we shouldn't have mentioned this earlier, but non-elemental AoE is definitely the problem with the level 20 party. And Dead Pulse's strategy was good, and that definitely could have worked, but that is the potential downside. Now, Dead Pulse, you are deciding to dive right back in. Why are you deciding to dive back in instead of not? Not that I disagree with it, just want to talk through a little bit of the adjustment versus non-adjustment.
So I know that nuke is first turn spell. However, it's possible that Chaos could open with a punch, and if Chaos opens with a punch and I get off 2 tempers and a fast, the knight probably is going to take Chaos down before he takes me down.
Yeah. Also, if your white mage survives on, gets any turn or 1 cure 4, and Chaos is almost certainly dead as well. Now, I do want to point out a more advanced strategy that could have been made, and Dead Pulse knows this 100%. He's purposely not demonstrating it here because we haven't really talked about it yet, but I do want to quickly touch on the benefit of experience distribution. And something that this party may have been successful at is if we danned off the ninja earlier, we could have gone with a fighter, white mage, black mage, 3-person comp, and maybe our fighter and our white mage could have gotten up to level 24 or 25, and our ninja could be level 10 instead. And, there's upsides and downsides to both, but that type of EXP distribution can sometimes allow for you to survive a scarier Temple of Fiends Revisited just a little bit better, because it makes sure that the characters you care about live, while the characters that you don't care about are more likely to die, but that's okay. So, we're going to be talking about this in, I think, week 5, maybe week 4. I think, can't remember. But, distributing EXP onto the correct characters and for the right time is pretty good. These bad men are awful.
They're very bad. But yeah, that first turn nuke, that is the concerning factor with this right here, because oof. And it's also just the simple fact that it was first turn and it nearly max rolled everyone. So that was
it nearly max rolled the knight, but the mages were actually fairly lucky to survive. So I would say that was like a probably better than average nuke roll. That's the scary thing. But Dead Pulse is right. Like if he gets first turn nuked again, he's probably in trouble. But if he doesn't, then he's probably in good shape. So that's kind of the trade-off here. Is like this dive is inherently risky though. I would put this chaos fight at maybe a coin flip. I don't think you're 70% to kill this chaos by any stretch. Turn 1 nuke is very scary with a level 19 party. I don't mind diving in again though. It's just like this is not like I got 1 in 100 last dive and it's not going to happen again this time. No way. No. We are still in very, very sketchy territory, specifically against chaos. We didn't really see anything from the other fiends. So while Dead Pulse is kind of getting through these feeds again, I did just want to point out thanks to everyone who's tuning in for the Duckling boot camps, and also to everyone who ran the Duckling Weekly last week. That was our highest ever turnout for a Duckling Weekly on week 1 of the boot camp, and that is super, super exciting. So I am beyond elated that we have all these players trying it out, so I really encourage anyone who hasn't already, check out those week 1 flags, play around with them a little bit, get your start to get an understanding of those dungeons, and then take these ones on. And I hope we have a similar turnout for week 2 and people come back. As I think week 1 went really, really well. There was lots of good discussion in the Duckling spoiler chat. There was lots of good discussion in the new player Duck Pond. So keep the questions coming. Keep trying to learn, trying to improve, and you guys will all go far. I'm looking forward to the Duck Derby itself. Yeah, so there's some questions about like what you could have done here differently to try and like make this Topher dive safer, but not necessarily faster. And I think the adjustment that could have been made was not to grind. It was just to take more fights in sea, more fights. Not really more fights in sky. It doesn't really have many opportunities, but like more fights in waterfall, maybe taking nightmares and things like that. Now, Dead Pulse knew that this was a win condition, and he was very much pushing it, and this win condition very well could have worked, so I don't think it was a bad play. But if you were looking at where the adjustments could have been made, it wasn't really like go grind the desert type situation. It was just take a few more fights on the way.
Not that an overworld grind would have been bad with the encounter table we've had. Oh, so Kraken had nuclear. Interesting.
Yep, that's quite
That's
rude.
a skill, yeah.
Now keep in mind, we do have life on this knight, so this white mage does not absolutely need to live, but heal 3, a nice play there to get the whole party up, but also critically that knight above 500 HP again, or 400 HP, which is the max roll of nuke. And this should do it. Oh, Kraken's still here though.
There goes that white mage and that one shot that we had.
Yep, so this is where life 2 on the knight helps a lot, right? So, and only one shot though, so if Kraken has, or if Tia has something nasty, we're gonna be in a little bit of trouble. Once again, try this tentatively at home, kids. Level 20 Topher dives. Not impossible, but definitely scary. So, notice that Dead Pulse has basically done the same thing against all the Fiends. It's because the strategies against the first Fiend fights didn't really change much. Like, we didn't really see anything that would cause any major adjustments to be made, and I think that was the correct play. Honestly, against Chaos, I think the turn 1 is going to be essentially exactly the same again, too, which is going to be Temper, Power Gauntlet, Invis 2, and Fast. Yeah, so, Jay saying in chat, like a quick check, grab 1 or 2 sandwiches. Yeah, definitely. And that's something that I might have considered if you're like, oh, I don't have enough levels for the Temple of Fiends Revisit. I want to have like 2 or 3 more levels. You can easily just take a few fights in the desert really quick just to get those levels as you're even leaving Sky Palace. Because you never know if you're going to get like a War Mech, right? So you can always clear all of Sky and then just get the levels in the desert if you need them near the end. And that's a fairly common play.
And by sandwiches, we mean the sandworms that usually lurk in the desert area.
Yes. Okay, no major strategic adjustments here. It is hope that nuke does not roll high. That is hope that we don't nuke, and then hope that we don't, if we do roll nuke, it doesn't roll high. Also turn order.
Where's an invis, and that will actually help.
That will help for sure.
That will not. That really will not.
Oh dear. Rub is good.
Yeah, he got none of the buffs off that he wanted though, so now he's swinging for piddly. Oh.
Trying. Oh goodness. Chaos is nuke lit 2 nuke. Okay, it's adjustment time.
So that's a thing.
Yep. Yep. So, what's the plan, Deadfalls? Obviously, we need a. I think at this point an adjustment is almost certainly mandatory. Although you could still beat this chaos. What's the plan?
So there's two options. The first thing I'm going to do is go try to take a desert grind, see if I can pull up like a T-Rex or something like that. The second option is to actually go into Temple of Fiends and take one of the floors without badmen.
Yeah.
And just grind in there for a little bit.
Yeah. The basement floor, or if you go down and left instead of down and right, gets you to a really good floor to just do like a walking grind. So. If you're going to do the Topher grind, that's a good place to go and get some warp charges. Now, I think level 25 is probably going to be where you're going to want to go, but you could stop earlier if you wanted. Depends on how the quality of the grind. Oh yeah, okay, so B-Day... Why do I keep saying B-Day? BD Jeffy saying interested in the desert grind. So the key thing with the desert grind is that there's one really, really good encounter, which is the T-Rex. There's another very good encounter, which is the sandworms, which is what you're seeing here. And then there's kind of a mediocre encounter, which is still often good enough, which is the... what's it actually called?
Tyro and Wyvern, right here.
Tyro and Wyvern, or Steak and Wings, as it's often named. So you're basically looking for those three in that order at this point. The T-Rex is a little scary in the early game if you can't kill it, so do keep that in mind, but those are what you're looking for. The way that you look for it is by searching the 4 different desert encounter zones. So there are 4 desert encounter zones which you can check off the power cycle, and you can try and see if any of them have that grind right off the power cycle, which can be really, really nice. So I'm looking for the enemy encounter zones. Here we go. And you can see that the way it's broken up is that the Mirage Tower isn't quite in the center, it's actually slightly up and to the right of center. But you can basically check all 4 relatively quickly, and by doing so, if you can find anything good off the power cycle, you can just go and kill that consistently. And it's a really good way to do a black belt grind if you can't find a spike tile. It's a really good way to get full party levels after doing Sky, for example. So the desert grinds definitely become a little bit more meta of late. So yeah, just something to add to your toolbox. It is much better grind than pop grind. You should very, 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 very rarely pop grind, but I'd say desert grind is not a play that you should be ashamed to make. Yeah, so we're going to go for a more similar... We were talking earlier about EXP distribution. The thing with this chaos is that you're never going to get the Black Mage enough... Well, you could, but you're not realistically going to get enough Black Mage HP to survive nuke, especially double nuke. So the most important characters here, in terms of HP, are going to be the Knight and the White Mage. And then you just have to hope that you get fast off on the Black Mage. So why the White Mage? Because it has Cure 4, which is going to be essential to survive nuke chaos. So you really need this White Mage to survive the first nuke, and then you need it to get some turn in order to get Cure 4. Now, it is nuke lit 2 nuke, which means you're basically guaranteed a turn for the White Mage unless it gets punched. But that's the 2 characters we're going to be prioritizing HP on, and by extension, levels. So, yep, here we go. I think you could have done a full party to grind in the desert, but I think the iPlay makes sense as well. And you're also seeing a preview of Black Belt Week next week.
And so, of course, you put 2 tasty chunks of meat right up front, and the eye decides to hit the fighter. There we go, that's better. There we go.
And that's how you kill off characters in a relatively quick fashion.
And with that, the grind has begun.
I opted to skip the desert grind specifically because all of the encounters were spread out. There was not a good way to get reasonable experience. I felt this might be faster.
Yeah, and I think
run.
the idea to get
Yeah.
the levels on 2 characters in particular is a lot better.
So Dead Pulse is just going to be here for a few minutes, snorkeling eyeballs.
So if you guessed, my plan is to get my White Mage above 400 health so that when the first nuke comes out, the White Mage can cure for the fighter, who will survive the second nuke, and hopefully there's not a third.
Well, what we have to pray for is that there's not a third nuke in the pool, and that he has a long spell list and not a short fork. Reese Wolf in chat asking if we saw all 4 nuclear. We did not. I think we only actually saw 1 nuclear and 2 nukes so far. Kraken had one. I think it was Kraken had one of the nuclears.
If I were really cheeky, I would kill off the knight and do a solo grind on the White Mage.
Hoo. Yeah, I mean, you are getting to the point where you're not getting a level every eye, so it's diminishing returns at this point.
And there you go, 400 HP.
Greg, you're joining us.
I figured I'd hang out and see what you guys were up to. You know, my name is on the stream, so I figured I'd show up.
Not anymore, it isn't.
Or it was. I see. Now it needs to be changed to Dark Moon and Greggly Puff with Dead Pulse. So I'm assuming ugliness was happening in Topher, because I saw Dead Pulse was in there earlier on Tiamat.
Yeah, he got to Chaos and discovered 2 nukes on the pool.
Oof.
Yeah.
That was good. Would I assume back to back?
There's a lit in between the 2 of them, but when the first nuke takes out your entire party, except for the fighter, it doesn't matter how many spells are in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're going to try one more dive here. Hoping we're getting through it this time, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a great plan. Bringing the White Mage up to over 400 HP. As long as you can keep your White Mage alive, or just get more HP on your people. Sometimes it's just what you need to get through the double nukes, especially, you know, at the end of the game. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do about that kind of spells list.
It also doesn't help when your party's only level 20.
Yeah. Ooh, can't believe you found a validation ribbon. Look at you.
All 3 ribbons. his luck was great all the way up until Chaos. I think you blew all your luck earlier in the game, dude.
Well, I did also find a wizard staff, so I have that going for me.
You can confuse some things.
Gonna go for the 3 and 256 confuse proc against Chaos.
Yeah, have him hit himself for 5 damage a whole bunch.
Yeah, that is something to note. When you saw Garland punching himself for like 26 damage with the fire spell he was casting on him, every enemy casts fire. It's not like they're casting the element of their choice. Every enemy casts fire upon themselves when they're confused. It's just the way the game is programmed. If an enemy is defended against magic or defended against fire or however you want to put it, and they punch themselves, they will do a lot less than Garland was doing at the opening of the game because it is fire they're casting. Oh, Lich had Bane. We hadn't seen that before.
You know, 3 ribbons are kind of nice in that situation.
Yup.
Guess who didn't have one?
Yeah. Poor Dark Moon. Just can't even get past the speed bump part 2.
One day. I'm back. I live.
So interesting thing about this floor here, there are no free tiles on this floor. So like normally you can like walk against the wall and like not catch encounters or through doorways, but it doesn't work for whatever reason in this room the way this floor was programmed. You can catch encounters in doorways and hugging the wall, as they say.
I think the explanation we got was because of the fact that of the way the war rooms are specifically constructed, that unlike most rooms that have the safe tiles across the bottom, they have specific tiles on like the walls or something that make that happen. But those tiles don't exist in these particular rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Man, DM survived Zap, so that's at least something.
Woo!
Doing his best impression of that one pirate that decides to resist Zap.
The Final Fantasy special in reverse.
Yeah. So that carry battle went pretty well. Masa doing some major damage there after getting fasted up. Naga and Water Tile. Fizzle's number 3 tile for grinding.
It's good EXP. Like it is in fact very good EXP. You can get a lot of good levels off of it if you have the spell charges to take it out. It's just not good at all for a solo grind.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you have like the black shirt, water's just hit so hard.
Yeah.
It's just, and they typically have too much HP to go down to 1 ice 2. It's just not worth trying to even potentially solo. It's pretty good for like a 2 or 3 man if you have the ability to take them down.
And it's usually like for the first 20-25 levels, it's good for a level around if you get the right packs of them. Which is one of the ways that I look at how to do a level up thing. If you're sitting there for a grind, your ideal is that you're actually getting like a level per battle. Because if you're not doing that, there's probably better battles out there for you to fight instead. That's on a grind, obviously. When you're just kind of like dungeon crawling and trying to get through stuff, to take the freebie level fights as you can, because you'll accumulate your levels over time.
Yeah.
But if you're sitting down for a grind and you're spending the time to do the grind, you want the grind to be efficient.
Yep. So looks like we're doing the Tiamat. I like the fact that Pulse keeps throwing out those. They call them the cheeky quad X's. They're not really cheeky. You kind of have an idea of how much damage you've done to somebody and what the scaling is. You know, you may as well try to get one out there. I mean, if turn order had been better and DM had gone first and then Chad had come out with the quad X, it might have landed.
Yep.
So
it's all my fault.
And yeah. And Blinking, you missed it, and we're like already through all the Fiend refights for the second time here. Is Deadpulse running in here? We're gonna see what this chaos is all about.
Well, he had a pretty easy time through most of Topher leading up to this anyway. It was so the extra levels just made this Topher even easier. It's just specifically this wall of a chaos right now.
Yeah, I like the preemptive Cure 4, especially when you know that Chaos is going to do Nuke first. And of course, the Cure 4 is going to come out before Nuke.
Of course.
So that's going to be great.
Of course, yeah. But he did get his
'Cause
rounds of buffing off, and he got the free punch.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I think it's time to go on ahead and full-on attack and just like what he's doing here. Just throw out some Cure 4s. If they come out first, like they're doing now, at least you're going to get the extra EX or HP to
so
deal
many
with
buffs.
the nuke.
Yeah, already.
And
Oh, there it is.
Here it comes. Good rolls, at least on everybody but Jat. Jat took the brunt of that. But Pulse survived long enough to at least get the Cure 4 out. And first turn Cure 4 again. What kind of... on here with turn order?
The two characters he actually cares about the most are still alive, and that's good.
Yeah.
There we go.
And that's yeah, I knew Cass wasn't long for the world when you had already done about 1,700 damage to him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not too bad. Not too bad, Dead Pulse. I'm glad I got to catch your second Tover dive. That was really exciting stuff.
The turn order on that, my third.
Oh, that was your third.
Yeah, I was thinking that I could beat the nuke because that first go that I had, I think if I had gotten one more swing off with the fighter, I would have gotten it.
Yeah, I mean, we can go to you here in a little bit, and I'm sure you gave kind of some thoughts about everything and the flags and stuff like that. Hopefully everybody that was out there watching, you know, especially the newer players that did the Duckling seed this past week, which, by the way, 45 new players played that seed. So, yeah, that's pretty popular stuff going on there. I think if you're here right now, you should definitely join the community, hit the link to the disc, or go to finalfantasy.com or randomizer.com and hit the link to the Discord. Or we could just put the link in here in chat, and you should join us and, you know, get involved in some of this Duckling bootcamp action. This was week 2, a little bit tougher than week 1, you know. We're adding a little bit more stuff, a little bit more random treasures, you know, a little bit of weapon blursing. We banned the black belt because we want you to get used to those fighter strats. And I think it worked out pretty well. What do you think, Dead Pulse?
Yeah, I love this flag set. I think that this run kind of showcased what can happen. Like, I had, at the end, 86 armor on the fighter, which is insane. Like, Carrie hit me 4 times for 4 damage. But at the same time, it gave me confidence to go in at 20, and I got nuked to bejesus and back. So anything can happen, really, with something like this. You take a gamble, and you go in low. Sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I will make sure to have the Duckling Weekly. We've already got a flag or a seed set up, so that'll be out in the morning whenever I get up and get my life together and post it and everything. Shouldn't be any later than 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Savings, so we'll post that then, and I'm excited to have everybody do week 2, and I appreciate everybody for coming out and watching the thing. I'm sorry that I ended up getting here a little bit on the later side, catching the last little bit of this, but I'm glad I got to watch it, and I'm not glad that you had a hard time, but it's always good to see that even good runners get messed up by just bad Tophers. Like, it's not just, you know, if you get a bad Topher, somebody else is probably having the same bad Topher. So, any final words from anybody else, I guess?
No, you wrapped it up quite nice. I mean, join the Discord, take a look. We have some suggestions for party, including the one I ran today. Although, after watching it, you might hesitate. And I don't blame you. Going into Topher at level 19, level 20, that's kind of what this party is all about. The speed instead of speed and power. But definitely check them out and maybe try out a party for yourself. See what works for you.
Awesome. Well, Dark Moon, take us out.
I will do. If you like what you're watching, saw something here that you enjoyed, want to see more about Final Fantasy Randomizer, come over to FinalFantasyRandomizer.com. You can find the game there, the randomizer, everything about that you're looking for, as well as links to the Discord and the development Discord. We want you to come and be a part of the community. Come join us and have fun with us. We are doing our Duckling Bootcamp, as Jet and Gregley mentioned prior to this. This is our 8-week training course where we go through everything you need to know to become a Final Fantasy Randomizer player. Whether you want to do races or just, be casual afterwards and enjoy the game for what it is. 8 weeks of training followed by a 4-week tournament of the Ducks, and along with those 8 weeks of these main classes that we're doing, we will have 8 weeks of extra credit classes as well that will teach new and interesting and varied lessons on those week's flags. So it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of cool training for you to go through. If you missed last week, want to see what we had that week, and keep up with everything that we're going to be posting over the course of the rest of this whole streaming event, go to our YouTube, which you can get a link from the Discord or the website. Check out everything we have, and just come be a Duckling and be a part of Final Fantasy Randomizer. From myself, Gregory Puff, Dead Pulse, and Chad, all in the booth with me, want to thank you for watching. We will have the extra credit course on my channel this week, Darkman Firelight here on Twitch. That will be Luffy racing through what we're calling the Historical Walking Tour. That'll be a fun flag set extra credit on Thursday. I'm probably around 9 o'clock. So yes, please come watch that with us, and we will hopefully see you then. Thank you very much, and good night.